course, they run quite a bit with Snizzlenose on the Roadhog, where he plays it quite a bit. And when you do play Roadhog as much as someone like Snizzle does, you do get the experience where to get early hooks to stop a push, and immediately they pull in D.Va, trying the demecker, and just barely she avoids that fate.
I feel like Roadhog's nickname in elementary school was probably Snizzlenose. It just seems like the perfect name for a Roadhog anyway. So that early hook did come on, but they were able to get out of that situation alive. Now going to back up a little bit. Really, the next thing you want to look at here on the defense is what does the Winston do? Does he go back or forward? If he goes forward, that means they're going to be aggressive, but he's just kind of waiting to get the overtop cleave and car wash.
The defense is being relatively passive here. They're giving up the first part mostly for free after that hook did not work out. And at some point, they will have to engage. Toronto, though, they're going to take more of the initiative here. They're diving in first and pushing back Hammers. They trade out even on, and now 5 versus 5, Hammers is going to have to bring the fight right back to them, and they do. Fisher now diving in, plenty of room, but it's very even right now, Max.
It's the guy we mentioned, is Jaro. There was a blade that comes out from Fisher, though, and he's going to get a lot of work done late in this fight, even with a low health pool. Onigod's still there to take him down. It is both the flankers on the cart trying to finish this out. Jaro did exactly what we expected in taking down Nesh early on as a 76, but since that kill came so early, Nesh able to get back reinforcements in favor of the defense, and despite the back and forth nature of that fight, offense is going to have to go back to the drawing board.
That fight was on a razor's edge. If just one more kill had gone the way early on there from Toronto, they very well could have broken through Hammers. I think Hammers was a little bit sluggish in their engage, but they get away with one.
The interesting thing is, Fisher used his Dragon Blade in last fight. Jaru saved his. He's going to have it for this next fight.
Exactly, and what Jaru does here is going to be very interesting to watch, especially if he can get to the high ground, use the blade, and pierce through. They're already down to Lucio, though, but here comes Jaru. The Dragon Blade is out, and he's looking for blood in the back, and it connects. Shaz is out of the fight. 2-1 in favor of Toronto, and they are going in.
Late Transcend will come on the card, keep everyone nice and healthy. Now the Discord Orb onto the D.Va. She's trying to stall out, not going to be enough. Still a little bit of pressure from the backline. Somehow Snow goes down to that Lucio, and that's enough damage for him to land a sound barrier to continue to stall out.
Self-destruct goes in. That's a nice one coming in from Note there, and Toronto Esports keeping up the pressure, although at the same time, Hammers is delaying this very well. Enough time for Fisher to count the blade. Has one so far, looking for more. Not going to do much versus Cynic, and Toronto Esports finally muscling their way in and getting this first point here on Gibraltar.
Will eventually crack it, and because of some of those spawn timings, Christopher and Tomsy both have to donate their life to the Human Fund on the cart, charging up those ultimates. Sprint spawns do not really come in. This is the Tracer Onigot, I think, cleaning up the last remnants of that previous fight when things were getting down to it. And Tracer is so good at the cleanup crew there, the mobility and the high burst from her.
No doubt about it. Toronto Esports trying to keep the momentum, but a nice leap coming in from the defense here, going to put Jaru out of the fight relatively early on and gives Hollywood Hammers a chance to reestablish. They certainly have the numerical advantage here. They have the power advantage here on the payload. And you look at Toronto, Note, someone in a rough situation, just looking for a swift death.
Yeah, well, this is great for Hammers, though, to be able to stabilize here. We always mention that the defense needs to win one fight, otherwise this stage can go extremely poorly for them. They did luck out a little bit and not get these split spawns, so they had mostly a full advantage there. Did have to donate lives to get back on the spawn, but it was the right choice to try to reset there. Now it becomes much more difficult for the offense to move in, pick one of 4 tiny doors, and hope to not eat shurikens on their way in.
Hammers is in a decent spot here for this next defense. Not only do they have the self-destruct to at least zone out Toronto or get kills outright, but they have the nano boost, so Toronto doesn't have a whole lot for themselves here. They can initiate with the sound barrier and try and layer the self-destruct, but it's rough. And losing Onigot that early on, that makes it even tougher to get a foothold here. So I'd expect more of a full reset coming out here from Toronto.
Yeah, they're trying to retreat. Actually, really nice defense. This is kind of an odd place for the defense to hold. They're holding right up in front of these doors. Oftentimes in second stage, you're holding back in the shuttle or on the shuttle. They just don't even want to let them in the room.
Well, here's the thing. Snizzle went out a little bit too far, got himself demech. Toronto Esports now with a very good opportunity to bring this back. I would look at Jaro here. The Dragon Blade is up, and the sound barrier can help him out. There's the barrier. A nice self-destruct. Takes down 2 in the back, and Jaro free the dash into the back line. Doesn't even need to bring the blade. That's going to be 4-0 for Toronto Esports. Very much set up by Note.
It's one of the difficult parts about holding that far forward. You're out in the open. The self-destruct's going to find a nice angle. You can't just hide into the shuttle or into pack room there and get out of sight lines of that. That opens up the self-destruct.
Well, here's the thing. Hollywood Hammers can come right back in. They have ults to turn the tide, and they do have the time to get back in. So here we see them right now, getting back onto the payload, and here comes Fisher. The Dragon Blade is out, looking to equalize here early on. Having trouble, though, getting bopped around by Cynic, who's in Primal Rage, and it's Chopper with Blade of his his own, strikes into the back line, and Toronto Esports able to hold Hammers back, keep their positioning on the payload, and though there's a bit of stall coming in right now, it's looking very good for Toronto as the exclamation point comes right in from Onigod.
2 tanks with a pulse bomb is a trade that you'll take any day of the week. You'll take damaging a tank with a pulse bomb. That's how invaluable it can be sometimes. Great for those picks, but also comes up so quickly that you have no problem just using it to throw down a little bit of damage. Not the stall out that they were looking for there. It was an odd defense, just where they were positioning, and then once you lose a fight in the position they lost it in, it's so hard to get in a good position again. Not utilizing the high ground, simply giving it up.
So even though Hollywood Hammers should be able to stabilize in this next fight if they initiate sound barrier well, this is a very good time for Toronto Esports. They're going to have at least about 2 pushes left after this one if they manage their time right. And this fight getting delayed out pretty heavily. I'm not entirely sure where Toronto is going with this here just yet, but if Hollywood Hammers isn't careful, this could go rough. Finally, they use the sound barrier to try and secure this out, but Toronto was able to build one of their own, so now this fight more in question. The self-destruct comes into the back line. Both teams still a full 6v6 despite all the skirmishing, but finally, Toronto breaking through, they demec Snizzle, and now they have an opportunity to take this even further.
They're playing an aggressive defense, but it's kind of half-hearted. They're going a little bit aggressive. They're trying to chase kills, and they had to use that sound barrier just to keep people alive who were going for a chase kill way in the back line. The defense after first point has been odd to say the least, and it seems like they're not committing to the plan of an aggressive defense.
No doubt about it, but we do have the direct play coming out here from Hollywood Hammers and the self-destruct from Snizzle. This has been a banner map so far for Divas. Both Divas getting their licks in here. Of course, Snizzle has been on Diva the entire time, but hey, work was working out for Note, and Snizzle wanted to get in on it himself.
Well, this is an interesting change here. They're going to actually run a Sombra here on last. They only need to hold one more time as we are now below 60 seconds on the clock for the closeout. So Fisher very likely looking to just get an early kill, maybe trying to deny some of these packs. Well, obviously trying to deny some of the packs. Wonder what his primary target is going to be, though. He's just going for harassing the supports for the moment.
I think for him, he would just like to build up an EMP to seal this last fight. He can build it up. It builds up very quickly. However, Snizzle went to Soldier, ends up dying, and here comes the Blade out from Daru. Diving into the backline, has one here so far, and Toronto Esports is building critical momentum now to finishing out this map. 28 seconds remain, and they're in a very good spot here, guys.
Look, EMP builds fast, but you weren't going to have it before that fight started. You will have it now, so now it's time to delay EMP and start turning the kill feed blue. You absolutely have to do it. A self-destruct will come out. Another 2 from self-destruct!
Oh, take note of Note here. The self-destructs coming in. Very consistent at the expense of Hammers. And they are not going to be able to get out to stall that out any longer. 4 seconds remaining here for Toronto Esports. And I think the interesting thing to me, Hex, is that when we watched Toronto Esports in the previous round, we saw very heavy contribution from both Cynic and Jaru, and it's not like they disappeared here, but
no.
What they were able to do with the self-destructs there was great for breaking down Hammers in point after point.
I just am very confused by the Fisher switch to Sombra at the end there. It's under a minute, and it is of any of the ults in the game, I agree. It charges extremely fast. I understand what he's trying to do. He was trying to pressure the back line with that Sombra too, but the thing is he got off Genji, and his Genji'd been good at pressuring the back line already. It's not necessarily a mistake, just something to keep in mind. Notable that when you're making that switch towards the end, because this fight was going to start before he had EMP. You saw EMP. EMP came down when 4 people were dead. It had 0 impact in that fight.
The problem with EMP is that as good as it is, if you don't have at least somewhat similar numbers that come in and take advantage of it, while it might delay a team a little bit, you're not going to get the kills off of it that you want. So EMP is much better used as something when you have other people alive, even better if they have ultimates that can be used that are really good when shields aren't in play.
Right.
But EMP in that situation, when it's desperation, obviously he would have liked to have done the EMP in a better situation, but I don't know. He didn't have much of a choice but to use it there, but you are right in that he didn't really have as much time as he would have liked to get the ability to use it in an even situation.
Yeah, I mean, it was close. Maybe one more pack, and he has EMP before that fight starts. I just think it's such a gamble that maybe you don't need to take there at the end. Anyway, it's an interesting play. We'll have to keep that in mind going forward. Hollywood Hammers now will switch on to the other side of the field. They will be on the attacking side of things. Toronto Esports looks like they want to play this one a little bit closer to aggressive. They are running the dive defense, as it were. And, of course, we see a lot of Widow on this map. Nesh is going to open up with Widow on the offense.
From Nesh. This is part insurance against really aggressive dive and part the idea that if you can get the early pickoff, you can really snowball early. And now, Nesh looking for targets. The Widowmaker being here isn't exactly secret at this point, and he will get under pressure early on. The Diva right in his face, Jaro grabbing Chaz, and really the Widow struggling to get a lot done early on.
Yeah, D-maxed, but that is just about it. The nice finish on a note, though, once he's out of his mech. Nice kills, though, from Jaro. They're getting very aggressive on this defense right now. I think this is kind of what Hammers was thinking about doing at certain points, but it never worked out for them. But it does seem like the clock has now expired on their aggressive window as they've been losing heroes here and there, and that's definitely it as Jaro goes down.
And now we have the swap up coming in from Hammers, of course. Nesh off the Widow, now on the Tracer, going to be the flanking threat in the back. And Hammers not being shy at all about securing the upward position here. You have Tomzy back on the payload. Maybe he can make some tweets while he's back there, who knows. But the rest of the action is going up in front, but perhaps a little bit aggressive. Going in here, Hammers getting caught with their pants down in Toronto, coming back out in force and reestablishing control on that first point area.
Yeah, just absolutely crushed. I like that they're being aggressive. When they see this window, they go in, they get the one kill, and then they try to roll it down into a couple. Now defense in a great position. This is exactly where you want your Soldier 76. It seems like a small deal, but that box right there will actually peel for you a lot of the time, will block a lot of the damage. It's Soldier's best friend up there.
Well, Note has plenty of room up here, and oh man, Shaz getting taken down relatively earlier by Jaro diving in as well, and the flankers from Toronto Esports out for blood, just deep diving in the Hammers before they can even start their attack, and it's certainly effective. 4 kills to 0. Hammers once again stuck. Going back to reset, and I would say a bigger problem here, Hex, is that not only has Hammers been losing these last few fights, but they haven't been really generating ultimate as they've been losing it either. They have very little tools available into this next fight. Maybe they build up the Transcendence midway through, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, they really have to find something here that can bring them back into it right now, to maybe get a couple of combos going. Something needs to shut down Jaro. The dive does come in over top. So far, it has been bloodless. The Transcendence is forced out, though. Nesh is going to try to wait this out as a Zenyatta's duel.
Both Zenyatta's experiencing spiritual enlightenment, but here comes a Dragon Blade out from Jaro, supported by the sound barrier, looking for blood in the backline. Doesn't quite get it, chased off by Christopher, but it's still enough to dash into Tomzy towards the end. And Toronto effectively pushing back Hammers here once more. Hammers is still fighting this out, but they are bleeding people left and right. Nesh left all on his lonesome here.
It's been a very impressive defense for this team, as every time that they see a little bit of a window, they just flip the switch. The bloodlust starts flowing, and they go after it and get these kills. And it's been a sloppy entry a lot of the time here, too. And right there, Nesh going down right there means that they can't even fight yet again. We're now below 1 minute left in it, and they got to find something here to bring it back. And they're going to have ults. Can Fisher find something? Can Snizzle find a self-destruct? We've seen how good self-destructs have been today.
It's been a banner day for self-destructs, but this is still a rough area to get it. However, Fisher dies immediately, discorded and breaking down right away. So for Hammers, now they're going to have to run in with about the last 15 seconds left. Could be the final fight of the map. They will have Dragon Blade up, so I personally want to see how Fisher sets this up and moves in.
It is going to be the most important part of the fights here, and Fisher's going to have to find something to work with. And it's going to be a miracle. He's going to have to find it. They look like they want to try the dive. They do go up in the corner. Diva's up there first.
Fisher diving right to the back line. He is behind the gate looking for targets. Gets one of the supports. Nesh takes out Jaro. So it's 2 kills here from the offense. 4-4 as Hammers on their last gasp trying to pull this one in. It's Fisher doing more work in the back. Ends up with 3 before it's all said and done. He was the one who needed to bring this through, but it's Cynic keeping things alive for Toronto. Respawns will be in soon. Hammers does not have this here just yet.
Does a good job of dancing around and staying alive even after getting those initial kills. He has such great presence around the cart. Does Cynic able to use it to body block for him, and that's going to buy time for people to come in. And now Jaru's got the blade. Dash resets, 4 kills. They look to lock it out.
Jaro with the run back here from Toronto. Hammers just not able to push it in as much as they would have liked, and it's been a strong day for Toronto Esports. They're going to take map 1 over the European powerhouse in Hollywood Hammers.
They look great, and this is a Toronto Esports team that every time I watch them, I see something new about them, opening my eyes.
Heroes now throughout the course of the day, and not heroes that everyone can always swap to effortlessly. So if he can come out here with a strong, fair performance, I think that bodes well for Toronto Esports as well, but certainly for Jaro in Overwatch.
Well, a lot of this will be on Fisher early on. Wow, the concussion right off the start. God, knocking a Tracer off the map does not happen too often too, and that is 4 quick kills now. Wow, that fight was over before it started. I didn't get my first sentence out.
Well, when you start out by knocking a Tracer off the cliff and you open up the opportunity for the rest of your team to dive deep, it's a good start here for Toronto Esports, to say the least. They're going to take the first point with authority, and Hollywood Hammer is already a bit in a hole.
Well, against the combo here,
okay.
No one actually goes off the cliff there. Fisher's job is to just put some pressure on it, because you can't have the Pharaoh be damage boosted the entire time. You must pressure the Mercy into healing up that Pharaoh. You must make the Pharaoh uncomfortable. You can also just whip out the Pharaoh and take out Cynic early on if you're Fisher, and he does just that.
Well, much better fight here for Hollywood. Oh, no, the Reds comes in from Snow towards the end. Here's a sound barrier, beta 1 combo from Toronto Esports, so it was a good start for Hollywood Hammers, but the finish coming in from Toronto off of the Resurrection, able to pull this one right back as Sizzle Nose goes to explore the depths of the koi pond.
Beautiful res there from Snow just to undo all the damage that had been done and get a nice 3-person tempo res there, bring it all the way back. This is such a brutal spot to be in. We saw in the last set as well that just so much damage boosted rockets coming in, able to feather these in, and now as the team rotates through, he's going to launch them through into Mega, and they're actually going to try the bridge yet again. It has not worked out great for them so far.
No, not quite, although the last push was promising. It was a Resurrection that really turned it the other way. Fisher, attack visor up this time, working for targets, but gets bopped away to begin with. Cynic gives up his life to sort of deal with that, but Hammers looking to pile on. Self-destruct not doing much, but the zone out is valuable. Toronto Esports struggling to get too much of anything done here, and as a result, we should be seeing Hammers get their first take of the round.
They were able to take down Snow and Ludi, and that's all of the healing, so all this damage will be permanent. And now that you see that you've got Cynic back in it, it means that it's been a long enough time for him to respawn. Fair alone on the points, and then I will give Fisher style points for that one. Did not need to use the Helix, but he's showing her that's exactly how rockets go. You may be the rocket queen, but the Helix held sway there.
No doubt about it. And Hammers now able to reestablish just a bit here. Of course, you see a little bit of Christopher's handiwork towards the back.
Yeah,
Discord and Mercy, the thing that you like to leap on. But next fight here is going to be underway. Jaro, Barrage, well armed and ready. Resurrection in reserve. So Toronto Esports has the tools they need to flip this one right back. And we take a look at Jaro. Bird's eye view here. Barrage at the ready, stalking over the top. The Barrage connects and takes down Tomsy. Snow, Resurrection reserve, should be able to bring up the Fallen here in just a moment. So they'll be able to bring up 2. The tempo res is in, and Toronto Esports in a great position now to flip this right back.
Well, that's what I was talking about. You have to be able to at least pressure out the combination, make them take some damage so that the damage boosted rockets can't be the primary stay. And also they let them just come way too far in. You put some entry damage on them and they're probably going to be less likely to take that angle and get the really nice angle for the barrage. This is what Fisher needs to be doing. Of course, easier said than done. It's 1v2 in this fight.
Well, Toronto Esports doubling down here, opening up the early sound barrier. They want to end this now. Oniga taking a swim early on, though, so 5v6 for Toronto Esports as they try and hold on. Hammers working their way in and around. The self-destruct coming in. Not the best position for it, though, perhaps. Still, though, plenty of opportunity for Toronto Esports to hold on here. It is a melee here on the point, and you see Toronto Esports just trying to isolate things out back towards their side, but the self-destruct from Snizzle removes Cynic from the equation, and suddenly Hollywood Hammers, with their backs against the wall in a must-win fight, should be able to flip this back, but they still have a ways to go, Hex.
They will take it back over finally, and the important thing is that how I like about how they're playing is they make sure to not really super commit to the fight until they find and eliminate Snow. But this is the barrage, the angle that they were able to take. No one's even looking at them in the sky, and he gets all that entry.
He gets the entry, but it's worth knowing that he was really neutralized quite a bit by the defensive matrix there. So that was 1 kill from the barrage. It very well could have been 2 to 3 if not for the timely intervention there from Snizzle. That said, Toronto Esports coming right back in. Not a lot of tools to do so, but it's Charu on the initiation once more. Finds Tomsy early on, and that is certainly going to be helpful here for Toronto Esports. But you see Hollywood Hammers able to bring it right back. It's Nesh on the flank. However, they don't take down Snow. The Resurrection comes in, and suddenly Toronto Esports well positioned here to push this back, retake the point, and perhaps win the round off of that.
A very nice res as bringing back 2, and it brings them the advantage in the fight. Now it is all about the cleanup. Note is the one going to town as he will take down the Diva and her mech. All the numbers in favor of Toronto Esports as they come in. Jaro's even got his sprints on. They're going to desperation time to look at this. They pop a visor and get 2 real quick off of Fisher's attack visor.
Fisher coming in off the flank, absolutely no one on him right now. The field is his oyster as he is able to lay in the damage to Soldier. Finally, they realize Fisher is there. They get onto him, but still very close between both teams. Now whoever wins this fight wins the round, and Hollywood Hammers is coming back in force in what has been a very prolonged fight here.
This has been going on for a very long time. Snow dying in that fight actually really hurts. He was at 77%, probably could have got a resurrection during that fight as it continues to be scrappy on the point. It has not been a completely one-sided, which is why they're able to bring it back. Cynic takes out Tomsy.
We have the Sombra in here. Shaz is down in on the Sombra. Why not? Late stage delay, able to come back into the fight, even find Snow, assassinate Snow in fact.
At 98% no less. And granted, the bodies were all staggered out, but he could have brought a couple back.
That was a nice pickoff by a late Sombra switch, so why not?
Well, the Sombra switch happens because she's one of the only heroes who is faster than normal. When you're invisible, you're faster. I don't know how those physics work, but I don't really know how basic math works, so how can I pretend to understand physics? But that's why you see supports even later on in fights like that switch to the Sombra. You get to the point a little quicker, and of course translocate. Anything with mobility is good in those kind of fights.
Alrighty, so Hollywood Hammers striking first here at Lijiang, looking to take this map, even up the series, and increase the odds that they can get a better seed heading into the group stages later on this month.
Well, it is going to be Control Center, and this is a good map for Genjis and Tracers alike, so we're going to have one on both sides. Both teams running, I believe, nearly identical compositions. Very divey, very flanky. A lot of this is just going to come down to some pure mechanics for these opening fights.
I'm bullish on Jaro coming in here. Given what we saw from him on Lijiang earlier in the day, he was doing great on just basic Genji mechanics, dash resets, pressing the back line. And we see Onigod right now as one part of that flanking offense from Toronto. Both teams taking some of their time here, but it's Jaro who strikes first yet again. It's a nice opening here from Jaro. He's going to dive in and effectively picks up 2 with his contribution onto that Winston. So Jaro going off with Onigod, the flanking DPS of Toronto Esports, striking blood here to open things up on Lijiang.
Yeah, Fisher just found himself a little bit out in no man's land, and then Jaro was just waiting at him, licking his, I guess, metal lips. That's how you get rust, I suppose, but just waiting for that deflect to wear off, dash through, gets the shurikens, and Jaro is a man that they have to stop right now. I'm not sure exactly what the answer has to be. Maybe you just completely, every time you see him, discord and send the Winston after him and hope it works.
Onigod right now on the ambush, drops the pulse bomb, does not connect, wasn't super close to connecting at that. They lose Snow from the Zen, and Toronto Esports, they double down. Even with 5 people, they use the sound barrier, and here's the Dragon Blade to the back, but not going to get a whole lot due to that Transcendence, and Jaro ends up taking a dirt nap, courtesy of his counterpart in Fisher.
Yeah, the double down there after the missed pulse bomb was really interesting. As you mentioned, that pulse bomb, I think it's fine to throw it in an area there because these close corridors, sometimes you can say, happy birthday to the ground at the pulse bomb and get 3 people to walk over it. Not quite the case there, as Hollywood Hammers will take this one back over for the time being. Not a ton to work with for Toronto. They can jump in here with a Transcend, but that's about all they have going for them.
This is a case where Toronto should be happy to come in on a bit of a junk rush, save their ultimates, drain some out from Hammers, because you look at how Hammers is set up here. I think the worst case would be to use Transcendence, not win the fight, and then lose to Fisher's Dragon Blade or otherwise. Like I said, it's an early 5 versus 5 here, so maybe there's a bit of hope. Self-destruct comes in, not going to get much, but it's Fisher with the blade out, has one early on, dashing to the back, and not as flashy as you'd like. Jaro's actually keeping this somewhat even, but Christopher isolating things out, able to deal with that, and Hammers going to hold on.
They got a little bit out of that, though, because they forced out Sound Barrier, which is the most important ultimate to force out in these fights, and not the huge value out of it either. I think Self-Destruct also came down from Snizzlenose, and that is he's not near his ultimate either. So they went in there with the ultimate disadvantage, and they come out the other side of the fight with a small advantage, and they're going to have a huge blade advantage, and they should know that one. Jaro will be the guy to watch in this next fight.
I definitely want to see what Jaro does here in this fight as he moves in. And Hammers right now trying to isolate space. Nesh buys him a lot of room with that early pulse bomb. So already, this is making things problematic for Toronto. I think they just choose to reset.
Yeah. It was time to reset because I think they really wanted to use Transcend in that with the blade or even with a Primal Rage, something along those lines. But you losing Snow like that with a beautiful pulse bomb from Nesh really just ended those plans immediately.
Well, both in terms of progress on the map and just resources available, this should be a fight that Toronto should be able to take here. It would be a huge miscarriage if they weren't able to move in and actually deal with this. So they're going to open up the Transcendence, and Jaru holds on to the blade in the back. Hasn't used it just yet because of the Transcendence, but now the Transcendence is over and Jaru is in. The blade is out, but he gets zoned down pretty heavily by the Winston, not able to get what he wants, and Hollywood Hammers able to make this a much more competitive fight than by any reason it should have been. This is tough for Toronto Esports, and despite the advantage, Hollywood Hammers brings it back, and Fisher with the exclamation point at the very end, the Dragon Blade to evict Toronto Esports from this point.
I think the counter Transcend really threw off Jaru. He wasn't sure what he was going to do. I think they wanted the Transcend and then Blade. You run around with your Blade out with the Zoom Yata, able to take down targets, but I don't think they expected Shaz to have his up. He transcended, that threw him off. Jaru got himself in a weird position, ends up chasing the Tracer with a purple balloon on her, gets nothing, and then goes down for it. So target selection an issue, alt economy an issue there for Toronto Esports.
Play here from Fisher towards the very end, and hey, we talked about McCree being a great garbage man in Overwatch, but at Dragon Blade, while a bit of a premium to pay, also very good at finishing out an already won fight.
Yeah, Fisher really showed that there is more than one Genji in this game, and all the praise that we have piled onto Jaru, you could just as easily give it to Fisher in that last one. It has been a tale of two Genjis so far on these maps, and Hollywood Hammers up 2-0 on the map, trying to equalize things.
So, Hammers, one round away from achieving that goal. Toronto Esports, they want to have the turnabout happen. It's going to have to happen now. And you take a look at how they're positioned here. You have Note far in the back. They're taking it a little bit slow. They're not trying to out-engage or out-dive Hammers here just yet. Hammers more than willing to take a more aggressive position here at the point. So Toronto Esports, their hand is going to be forced. They need to come back on here and contest this, despite, however, they were opening things up to begin with. But they're getting flanked on all ends right now. This is problematic to say the least. Hollywood Hammers looking for this on all ends, but Johnny got able to bring this back. It's good Tracer play on his end, and though it's on a razor's edge, it's Toronto's Esports that are able to win the fight, snowball it in their favor, and get first control.
It works out really well for them because they have this triple DPS, and that's what you mentioned, attacking from all angles. Here's Jaru on his attack from the backside angle. Through the front door was actually Note, and Onigod got all the credit in the kill feed, but Note had done a lot of work softening them up. That's the difference between these compositions right now, is that there's simply more damage from the side of Toronto Esports.
Nash coming in, able to take down Cynic early on in this fight, and it already makes a big momentum difference here. But no, he has a Dragon Blade here in the back, and though Jaru has the blade, he's going to use it early on, and this is a just bloodbath for Toronto Esports and bringing this one right back, and Note able to save that tech visor.
It's making every other DPS's job easier because Jaru's get those dash resets because the kills are being finished by Note in the backline. Didn't have to use the tactical visor, as you mentioned. And yes, these kills are all great from Jaru, but it's because these are softer targets now. The triple DPS has been a nice transition for Toronto Esports. I think last time on the last stage, they realized we're getting people low, not low enough. Let's add in some more bullets.
Once more, Hammers a little bit sluggish on their initiation there. They had a few people up in front before the rest were in position, and that just does not work out in even the slightest. And the problem there is that they lost that fight so severely that Toronto Esports was just able to bank ultimates all throughout there. So not only are they going to have an advantage from 70% to 0, but they have a war chest very much ready to go for the next fight. It's going to be a war between both teams in terms of what they use here.
Cynic setting up for a counter dive if they do come in on that angle, and that's what exactly they initiate with the sound barrier though, so a lot of this damage going to be mitigated early on. Still though, Jaru able to find the tank. Nice pressure in the back line, trying to get the back cap going. They come in though.
They do come in, and you're seeing a little bit on the point here while the rest of the fight is going off to the side. And it's Fisher trying to bring this back for Hollywood Hammers, and still alive. They've been relatively even. Both Genjis still in here at this point, but they're not able to get back on just in time.
It's a desperation thing when you see something like that, because to take your Tracer out of the fight to do pressure like that, it's something we see in Sanctum all the time, and you can tell when teams are doing it because I start making really weird noises because I think it's terrible. And you take that damage out of the fight, yes, it makes someone come back and deal with it, but it's so rare that you're actually going to get a full back cap there. And even if you did back cap that, say with your Tracer, the rest of your team is very likely dead in a 5v6 up front.
All right, so we do have a pause going on right now. And we're coming back, but so far, this has been an interesting series. Toronto, of course, coming back relatively big in the last round on Night Market after what was a sluggish beginning, but Hammers Esports still one round away from reversing course here.
Well, and it seems like Snizzle, though, specifically on D.Va, feels a lot more comfortable when they've already taken the point. You see him a lot more in the kill feed on that D.Va than some of these other D.Vas who have been playing more Matrix-centric. And that they don't have to play very much of a horizontal fight when they do that. But then again, when you get that triple DPS on the other side, when they get control of the point, they're able to play that horizontal game a lot better. And I mean, Onigod came alive on Tracer even there a little bit.
The way they're trying to deal with the triple DPS simply hasn't worked, which is why you saw that weird play towards the end of trying to put pressure on the point, because they just know what they're doing is not working. They probably should have gone into something where they rotate towards the side and take the point that way. It can be dangerous. But what was happening is they're diving into the back with their tanks, and then all three DPS are either focusing on the tank or then they send the Genji in the back line. Meanwhile, Cynic is counter diving with the Genji, and they're crushing the back line early on. So there's so much damage up front that their dive's not working, and they're getting counter dived on and losing so much.
The synergy that we saw between Sync and Jaro, I mean, again, we sort of alluded to it in the pre-gamers saying, look, this is what Toronto Esports is doing. They were finally able to capitalize on that in that last round on Night Market and sort of get things together and control where they did seem out of sorts in the first two rounds. That said, they are going to have to go back and show that they can win on some of the rounds they lost on. Otherwise, well, this is going to be Hammer's map.
Yeah, and here's the question. Reverse sweep, are we feeling the reverse sweep here?
No. I mean, honestly, I just think Toronto Esports is playing better. No, I think it's funny because Toronto beat Liquid, and the synergy that we're seeing between Cynic and Jaro reminds me a little bit of like how well they play when Mezzer and Shatter are on the same page on their dive. It's just everyone's a soft target, and I've been impressed with both of them a great deal.
Well, we're back.
I'm willing to see a reverse sweep. I'm not to cast aspersions here on Hollywood Hammers. I just think Toronto's been playing really well, and I just feel that now that they've kind of cracked a code a little bit with this triple DPS, which worked, the Hollywood Hammers did not look good on that last stage. They just did not have any answer to the triple DPS, and they need to figure something out.
All right, well, we are back here on the Shrine. Bird's eye view as both teams move in and look at each other once more. And Hollywood Hammers taking a little bit more of the initiative here early on. Cynic gets punished early on that dive, and Jaro's going to be trying to bring this back in the back line himself. And it's actually a quick turnabout here for Toronto Esports. So down to Winston, but not out of this fight here just yet. A lot of fire coming to Jaro, but Orb is on him, keeping up and healthy, and he's going to dive right back in immediately. Reminds Stizzle knows that the mech is actually pretty good for protection as a D.Va.
This is a game for Hollywood Hammers that even the players on Hammers who play Genji are like, I don't think dash resets are fair. Like, that's how many dash resets Jaro's been getting through these. And I really think a lot of it is the addition of this extra damage from Note. He'd been playing the D.Va before, which is fine to, maybe keep some people alive, but it has just worked wonders in being able to finish kills. Counter dives come in from both teams. Winston's on either side of the map.
Well, right down, both teams trying out. Hollywood Hammers coming back in force, and they're keeping more towards their own bridge. Toronto tried to dive into that aggressively and just got pummeled early on. So the dive from Toronto Esports not quite working out as well there, and a little bit of garbage cleaning up towards the very end for Fisher, taking down the Lucio infestation on the top.
That Lucio can be so frustrating. I mean, these pro players don't have a problem with it, but I've literally lost games because of roller skates in Overwatch. And those roller skates are just, I even get tired of the noise they make sometimes when Lucio's stalling out like that. But it was really smart to sit that far back. Let the dive come in and handle it piece by piece rather than trying to counter dive.
Here comes Jaro. He is licking his chops, diving right in, gets one early on, looking for more. Not going to quite get away, though, as Christopher able to take him out, prevent what could have been a very nasty sequence of events there from Jaro.
They'd burn a couple ults to do so, but that is just fine. Toronto Esports going to go for the full reset. Hollywood Hammers will have the map percentage lead by the time the next engagement happens. And it looks like a different kind of Hammers team now. They've made the adjustment they need to. Maybe it's just the stage that they're more comfortable with in these narrow corridors, but they've made the adjustment to the dive and to all of the damage coming out. And it's, I think, largely because they're not running the Genji anymore. They can sit back with this soldier instead.
All right, well, early on here, Fisher just gunning down Ludi. Ludi not quite able to get out of that line of sight early on, and now a little bit of a switch up here. Cynic almost getting knocked off, gets right back on. Primal Rage at the ready, and he's gonna pop it. We have some Winston sumo wrestling going on right now as he goes for the mid-air bat. Not quite gonna get it, but still, the rest of this going reasonably well here for Toronto Esports. However, it's not one fight yet. They double down, drop the sound barrier, and look for more, and Hollywood Hammer is able to be resilient here. Fisher able to dodge away, do a decent amount of damage. So though Hollywood Hammer is a little bit beaten here, they're not throwing off this point just yet. And remember, if they win this round, they win the map.
They're going to get the reinforcements back in here too, and they're going to have their Zenyatta reinforcement come back in. And Christopher has actually had a really nice game on the Winston. Once they made these adjustments that they're not necessarily going to counter dive, they're going to stay a little bit closer together as a team, not get so split up into the triple DPS. It's worked out very, very well for them. They're going to have to find something here, close to a blade, but that's about it. Now it's desperation time. Got to start dipping those toes on the point.
Well, they're down one already, so the odds are not looking good. Jaro is damaged, but he has a blade. We'll see if he brings it back. Has to worry about the tack visor on top of it. Fisher laying down the law and does just gun Jaro right down. Sort of showing old precepts we learned in Indiana Jones with something about swords versus guns.
Yeah, that actor actually practiced for months on that sword routine, and then Harrison Ford was feeling sick that day in improv.
But early on, Nesh certainly going to be filling that role here for Hollywood Hammers, where again, Toronto Esports is going to be very careful of their early positioning.
Right.
Let's Nesh get that early pick off and create what is a really hard situation to defend on Nubis, where the respawns are so far away.
Speaking of early pickoff, Snow finds himself dead already with 10% on that EMP. That's rough. You want an EMP in the early fight. It's one of the great reasons you'd run a Sombra on this. Now Nesh is going to have nothing but open sight lines here. Give him a light gun and plug in Duck Hunt, because that's what he's up to.
Well, Nesh right now just can survey the entirety of the battlefield and takes down Jaro with ease. Makes it a double kill at the very end. Two beautiful flicks coming in from Nesh to take that.
Snow's been dead more than he's been alive this game, regretting this Sombra pick very early on. He spent most of his life in spawn. Here's just how well you know Sombra's ult charges. He's at 40%. He's been alive a grand total of 6 seconds.
No doubt about it. And Hollywood Hammers now. This is where a team has their best chance of just ending in Anubis immediately, where they get the first fight. They're about to have ults up in their advantage. So they did have a few switch-ups where Nesh doesn't have this just yet. And that said, Toronto Esports puts an end to whatever wave could have been coming early on based off of a pulse bomb from Onigod. So that is one way of pulling the tide.
They needed that too, because now Snow should be in a position where he can at least do a little bit of damage, which is why you see him roaming out here, and he will translocate back the moment he gets chipped on so that he can get a pack and back up to 100% on the EMP for the next fight. And they have to know that they're going to be going into an EMP. It's going to affect the timing of the sound barrier. You want to hide and then use it post-EMP if at all possible.
All right, well, Toronto Esports still holding on here to the back. They have a defensive Dragon Blade up and at the ready. Jaro just measuring, do I need to use this yet? Because if you get a few early kills, you can save the Blade for a time when you don't need to use it. And the patience here in not using Blade might very well pay off. They already have 2 kills. The Blade is in reserve. And this is a win here for Toronto Esports in more ways than one, because not only do they take the fight, but they are able to put themselves ahead in ult economy based on their decision-making.
2 kills on assault defense when the other team's not running a Mercy is fight over, especially if they're the first 2 kills. And even if you trade out those 2 kills, that's essentially fight over. And they've been banking up a war chest on the side of the offense, though. I like this, that they've not been half committing here. They want to go all in on this next one. They will have nearly every ultimate, just a matter of if they can dodge the EMP.
I think Onigod was just almost faking a pulse bomb there. Jumps in, doesn't get much, but meanwhile it's Fisher. Dragon Blade onto the point, going to the back. Defensive EMP out, trying to stem the tide. But I'm not sure it's enough here just yet. Hammers is able to drop the sound barrier, keep everyone alive after that EMP, because Lucio wasn't hit by it.
Yeah, that's the most important part, is that the Lucio dodges the EMP, because you want to be able to peel off the sound barrier shields. They kind of force into that. And Dragon Blade will come out, and that is 2 quick kills from Jaro, a 3rd one. And despite this boosted scientist going primal on the point, this defense is fine.
Oh, that was beautiful. Jaro just able to swiftly go in and turn that fight on a dime. Sure, it was a Dragon Blade, but we've seen plenty of cases where Dragon Blade isn't able to do that. So he has been remarkably consistent with that here today for Toronto Esports, where again, they still have to defend this for quite a while. It's 4.5 minutes.
Snow back on the EMP grinds as we just look again at Jaro's great blade that brought it back. And I mean, the tough part is you see that ult there sitting on the point from Winston, and it's getting nothing done. He wanted to reset there. He didn't want to have pop primal.
All right, Hollywood Hammers looking to come in again. Not a whole lot of tools to do so. We have seen teams take this with no ults, but it's so difficult to cross and really pick. This is the reverse of that situation, where they lose 2 people immediately, and it's just tough. I mean, it was more of a junk rush than anything else. The problem is that Toronto Esports also didn't have a whole lot, and thus didn't even have the opportunity to burn much there. So somewhat of a wasted push there from Hammers.
Well, Onigod's been setting up the fact that he's been faking pulse bombs over here. This one could be a legitimate one. He's in a great position, so it's kind of the, does he have it, does he not?
Well, I just want to see what he does with this pulse bomb. He is perched. He is waiting. Hollywood Hammers is, oh, are they going to come through there? If they do come through there, this could be tough.
He bailed out already. Yeah, he's out of it. Snow is going to wait to try to grab a couple here. Does drop out the EMP. Retreat looks like it is on. They're trying to go right back through that front door, but getting chased down and cleaned up. A couple of kills. Again, this offensive push is over. Jazz has unplugged his keyboard, waiting for the sweet release of death. He will be obliged.
That's always the thing. Well, the problem with Assault from the offensive perspective is that if you have less than a great engage, you really just, unless you can build ultimates or find a way of turning it back around, you have to go back and go for another reset. You must have a definitive attack, and Hammers, though they've had flashes of that, they haven't been able to put it all together. And even going to here, think about the win condition. Jaro needs to get nothing with this Dragon Blade for Hammers to be able to take this in all actuality. He just watched everyone go into a tiny area. He has Blade up. This is where, as a Genji, you're just excited to dive right in and collect your bounty. So we should be seeing this Blade come out here in just a moment. It's a little bit late. The sound barrier will mitigate some of this here. So not as ideal for Jaro as we would have liked. He's taken down. It was a little bit late on the engage, and Hammers now perhaps with the opportunity to come in here. One kill so far, but they have good positioning and good health, but the self-destruct immediately turns the tide and then some. And that's the problem, is that all it takes is one play on the defense to have a successful ultimate to ruin your day.
That was their best window because they knew that the EMP was down-ish. Of course, the EMP is going to be up nearly every fight in Assault maps. You say 80%, it does come up online now towards the end of that fight. But they sound barriered, they nano blade, they got the blade out. It was everything that they needed going for them to wipe out a full team and try to get some progress on the point. They have yet to even gain a tick. Nesh going to switch over to the Cowboy.
So what Nesh does here on McCree, more so than anything else, is that it provides a bit of a safety valve against both Sombra and Genji, where McCree does have some favorable matchups there, but not when you get EMP'd in the corner and just dived on like that. Yeah, that was tough. Toronto Esports just comes in and makes very quick work of that.
Yep, McCree got put in the corner, and that's because Snow was able to hold that ult from the last fight, as it only came on late. They did not need it. I will say that despite how difficult this map is to take for the offense, Toronto has done a good job of using ultimates correctly. They're not throwing good after bad. You got Jaru in here looking for the dash resets, going through, just getting some shuriken work done as well. He's been impactful both with and without Dragon Blade, the mark of a grand Genji. 1 minute left here, ZP, last push.
Jaru again seeing one of his favorite situations. Everyone close up, the blade on deck, and now the blade is out. He's going to be swinging for the fences here. Hexen gets nothing once more. Christopher had been very good at stopping him early on. Nesh now with space to work with in a fight as McCree, where we know McCree can clean up, but the self-destruct, again, being spoiler. Still, Hammers Esports, again, try and make the most of this with 45 seconds left. And though Nesh can be a great garbage man here, there's just not enough meat in front of him to make that dream happen. And Hex, Snizzle Nose, going to an old loved one.
Silver lining here, they got a tick. So they've gotten some progress on the point. Up until this point, they'd gotten absolutely nothing. And they still do have a decent amount of push. The last couple of rushes, they've forced Toronto to use everything they've had. This is a great window for them because they're not going to be facing an EMP this time either.
Well, last chance here for Hollywood Hammers. Plenty of ultimates in their bank for it, aside from perhaps one of the most important, sound barrier. And Nesh, if he gets enough space, he's just going straight for the Deadeye. It is high noon, but Winston barrier in his face. And not the most ideal area to go for a Deadeye, if we're being totally honest. Lots of cover for Toronto Esports. They just back off, kill the few people who come out in front, and I feel like they would have been better off if they just played that straight up rather than going for the Deadeye.
Deadeye can be one of those ults that it needs to be in perfect positioning. The EMP will come online late, and that will turn the tide in favor of Toronto Esports. One tick is all they will get on their push of Anubis last on Assault. These maps can be so difficult. Hollywood Hammers had 2 good windows, but that was it. The rest of the fights, they didn't even have a chance. Mostly, the first 3 or 4 fights, they lost to 2 people just on the entry.
Now, it is worth noting here that it's still really hard to attack Anubis second. So, though it's not anywhere near ideal for Hollywood Hammers here, and certainly if you were to run win rates when you only get 34% on second, you're more likely to lose the game than the win. However, it's not quite as grim as it might appear from the outside. The idea that Hammers could hold them from getting that themselves is possible. And there's always a possibility of first point hold, though we do see that rather seldomly nowadays.
It has been quite a bit of time since we've seen that. And I think the composition they went towards the end was the best of the compositions. I think you get a Roadhog there and you try to get those entry kills. I think McCree can clean a lot of that up. So I think the switches they made, they just didn't have the time to really utilize that comp.
Well, the cool thing about McCree Roadhog comp is that if you're able to get an early hook and kill someone mostly for free, without the rest of your team being too damaged, then you already put McCree in a situation he's comfortable in, which is uneven numbers. There's less people likely to get on him, more targets to go on that are less likely to be shielded, so on and so forth. So in theory, it's a composition that can clean up pretty well in an assault situation. It didn't quite work out for them there. I do think they were trying to go in through that room on the left a little bit too often, which really just, Jaro was able to look at that and go, yeah, actually, I want plenty of this.
Yeah, it's just hard to find the correct manner of entry in there. This is really interesting stuff. We might have a Widow v Widow. I was just talking about the Tracer dance, but Widow v Widow is also going to happen while that dance does diminish. And we also have another defensive Sombra here. So looking to maybe get that first point hold, Nesh could be able to shut down the combo. That's what a great Widow can do. But he's going to have to deal with another sniper in his sights.
Widow v Widow is tough on the defense here because the other Widow can fail 3 times and then win once and still have it be useful for breaking back in just because of respawn time. So Nesh is going to have to significantly outplay Onigod here while also avoiding other hazards like a D.Va and a Winston in his face.
Well, nice there that he was able to get the Widow, the mine triggered early on, and now he's going to able to get away from that early dive, demacked, and now he's going to try to take some shots at the Pharah, take her down, and Nesh does get the better part of Jaro.
Nesh, with a little bit of razzle-dazzle there, avoiding the threats, still able to take down Pharah at the very end. And yet the offense still has plenty to be happy about here. I mean, it's 4 versus 4. They're able to come in and trade out kills, and their respawns are going to be in quicker, so this isn't terrible for Toronto Esports. I think that they could very easily win this off of mere attrition alone here.
Yeah, they're fine.
Despite what was an all-right opening by Hammers and a valiant effort by Nesh. It's not enough. You have to be absolutely crushing on defense to hold on point A Anubis.
Point A, assaults, really, on any assault. That's why, I mean, very early on in Overwatch, we saw some teams running Mercy just to get the resurrection on it. Now teams just want to stall out as much as humanly possible just to run the clock. Really, the dreams of holding on a first point assault have been dashed enough times that they no longer exist. Hollywood Hammer's in a decent spot, though, as they will at least have the EMP for this next defense, but Toronto Esports going to come up right over the top, find some kills. EMP comes down, but 2 already dead.
That is a massive opening. They use their ultimate momentum super well here. Jaro going off with 2 kills. It is flawless for them here so far, 4-0. Hollywood Hammers, they have to prevent them from basically getting 1 tick, and they're doing an awful job of that so far as they get mauled, rolled over. Goodbye, good night. This is amazing opening here from Toronto Esports, and they have ultimate power to spare.
It's so close to being over. Look at where that meter already is. The barrage will come down. Snizzle now out of this fight, self-destructing to make them get off of the point, which is what they cannot afford to do. Able to come back on, still alive. You need to start seeing some blue. Another EMP gives them an opening.
The late EMP comes out, but they just don't have enough people alive to contest. At this point, they have to throw anything into it that they can, and hey, they impulse bomb towards the end, but doesn't really matter.
To me, that's a perfect example of the power of Pharah on this map, because you saw what was giving Hollywood Hammers a lot of trouble was finding entry. They were trying to go center.